All right, hi everybody. All right, today I have an issue I want to address. A few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago during the summer, one of our good friends and great supporters of Mr. Mk2's channel and Facebook page is Sprue Surgeon. He's from the UK. He did a live build spread with this kit here. I'm actually building the Revell version right now. Um, and this kit here was donated from a close friend from Ireland, um, Punch. You guys that follow me know Punch is a big Escort, a big Escort fan. I was having troubles when I was first started looking for this kit. I was having troubles finding it. It wasn't very popularly issued in the U.S., but Punch had, being an Escort fan of the Mk2 and the Mk2 Escorts, which would be the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 Escorts. He had several of these, corresponded back and forth with Punch. I don't know why I just called him Butch. Sorry, I seen a comment in the post. Sorry, guys. Um, and we did a trade. I had a resin Mk2 body that I wasn't going to do anything with. Punch sent me this from Ireland, and you guys seen Punch open up the package I sent him. I've done a lot of different changes to this because I wanted a street car, but it's hard to get this Escort in plastic. Punch has a couple die cast stock versions, and he's in the midst of dissecting a die cast and forming resin panels for us guys that want to build a factory Escort, to get rid of these flares. What I've done, if you guys haven't noticed, I used a C1 trans kit. I've used a C1 carbon signal kit, to be exact. Where's the box? I used one of Chris Hell's from C1. I use one of these here. I've dissected the hood from this and put it in the Escort. I cut the fenders. Um, this right here comes with the whole front resin front clip in this kit. And what I've done is I've cut these off of this resin front kit. Manipulated. It comes with the back skirts right here. And then what I've done so far is I've added them to the Escort body that Punch sent, to get rid of the rally flares. But getting back on key, if you guys noticed, Mark over at Sprue Surgeon, he was building this. And he was building it live with us, and he went to get to the chassis to do the build on the chassis, and he caught a lot of ridicule from some other people in the community because on his build, the front wheels and tires were too far forward. So Mark was questioning whether to cut on the inside, to move it back. And as a builder that does custom work like myself, to me, kind of sounded like I don't want to say a dumb question, but a question of, just move stuff around. And then without me making an idiotic comment, I started to think about the Mark is usually, he likes his airplanes, so usually he's building airplanes. He likes to do enhancement to a box stock kit. Not really. Mark's really not a customizer. And so I thought while I'm building this Escort, I'll address the issue that Mark had in case someone else would run into that issue too. I got to talk a little bit with Mark today, a few hours this morning, between doctor appointments and stuff. And now that I got home and took some medication, I can sit down and not get too far off track and let my pills kick in. All right, so here's the situation. When Mark was building the Escort, I'm going to open up this this kit here. Now, this kit's been around a very long time. It started off as a Essex, and then Revell, and then Italeri. Mark turned me on to Scalemates a couple years ago, and if you look in Scalemates, it's been issued several times, but 3 manufacturers have reissued it. It's not a very popular kit here in the States, as I addressed, so I got it from Punch. But in this kit, just look at that flash. You think even with reissue they would clean up some of the flash, but I think Italeri confiscated the molds and just went from there. So this kit here is exactly like the Revell one Punch sent me. Big sprues and, you know, great big old, and see all the indentions here. The kit is loaded with problems. You see on the trunk all the molded in stuff. So to even attempt this build from Mark with his experience with automobiles was a great chore in its own. But if you look right here, here's the front end and here's the rear end. The way they set this up from Essex is you glue this in right here, the cross member, and then you glue in the arms. The arms, they got the big old pegs on them, and it's supposed to be posable steering, but if you see the way the shocks are, it kicks them really far forward. If here's a mounting point and there's a mounting point, you think it would be straight and even, but it's not. It's kicked really far forward. And on this, on the rear end, I see those little holes right here. If you guys can see that, they actually mount to the chassis plate. They actually mount to these right here, which would be like molded in shocks. And that keeps it too far forward. And when you're building the leaf springs, right here's your leaf springs. When you're building the leaf springs, see how far up it's got that mount? So in real life, you have all this behind the rear end. For us guys that do street racing and stuff like that, usually you want your rear ends to be centered, because right here it'd be a ton of wheel hop as the tires are, you know, trying to speed down the way. This mount here is way far forward. It should be center. And the way they have the rear end and everything set up. So what I done is, never mind that I got this stance lowered, but what I did is I glued this in, and then I cut the sway bar. All this is molded. If you can't see, where is it at? All that is molded in. So what I did is I cut these. I glued it in place first so everything lines up. And then I cut these straight off. Then I glued in you can see where I try to use all the Revell stuff to help you guys out on this. Then you can see that I glued in the Revell stuff with silver on one end. Then I glued these in, and then I moved this down, and I centered this up with the wheel. So I made sure the wheel, you know, would mount up, and then I centered it up. And that's how I fixed the front. Now on the rear, I actually flipped the rear end around. I made a diffuser. Let's see if you guys can't see that. And then with these wide tires, I had to move the axles in anyway. But what I did is I moved it around, and I didn't use these posts. I cut them clean off the rear end, because if you use them, now you see how this is centered. See how this is centered in there now? If you didn't have it centered in and you use those posts that they're trying to show you in the kit, it moves the rear end up about 1/8 of an inch from where it is now. And that was Mark's problem. Mark's like, the chassis is in fine, because you can't go nowhere. The chassis fits between this back roll pan and this front roll pan, you know, Mark was trying to remove, I'll take the hood off. Mark was trying to remove plastic from here and move the chassis back. And he still didn't have the room, so he was asking questions. Mark had told me that he had stopped working on the build because of that issue. So this week I've been working on this, and maybe we can help Mark return to that project. Still a long ways to go on my Escort. Was talking to Punch. I spent a few conversations with Punch yesterday with the time difference and everything. I don't know where that tire went. With the time difference between my house and, you know, me being in the U.S. and him being in Ireland, we didn't get to speak too long. But I was showing him, and I think I was going to try to put the Coyote motor in here from Revell, the 2014 Coyote motor. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. But it's just too much. It's too tight. I wouldn't have enough room to do any kind of detailing. All you guys would see would be the top of the motor and stuff. I still got to sand these down, and I'll put my photo etch. Shock towers up front. But you know, I've added some because of the Hakusuka carbon signal set. Was at an angle. I've added plastic into there, made the smooth transition. I've made I made the rear diffuser for it. Focus. And then, drilled the holes too big the first time on the side kit. And I forgot that our buddy George from Vision 124 had sent me a rivet maker and a scriber. So then we went back, and I can't wait to get primer on here to see what those rivets really look like. But it's pretty decent. So we're detailing this up a little bit. But talking with Punch yesterday, I think we're going to go with the Cosworth and do a turbo in it. Punch was very great before he hit put his boys to bed and got himself ready for bed. He sent me a few pictures of some Escort stuff that he has saved and a few links. So I think we're going to keep the Cosworth engine in here. And then put that back in there. But yeah, it really is. It's a great car. It's a great car in history. But both Essex had this out late 70s, early 80s for a little bit. One version was a completely clear body. Then they came out black. They've been out in blue. They've been out in that blue right there. Scale Mate set has also issued. And a yellow. It was also issued in a yellow, but it's not a good kit, guys. It really ain't. You see the flash and the way the mold is. But you got to consider, you know, this is a 78 mold, 79 mold that 3 companies have used and nobody has updated. It's great to have it back out because if you look on eBay right now and try to order this blue kit, even though the Essex kit is out, the Italeri kit is out now. Well, it came out last year. They're running about $48 for this one, you know, once you buy it offline and have it shipped. But the blue version from Revell of Germany, man, they're trying to pull 130 British pound out of them, you know, so it's not a cheap kit because of the rarity. Of course, you know, you look the 2 different decal companies, depending upon which driver you want to build, you know. Also, what is this one here? This one right here is the Castro version, and the Essex version is. And it says Castro too, but it's Launders number 5. And this right here was number 1, Lambard. Again, you know, sometimes the drivers bring different things. Not a bad kit. I mean, good looking decals. But it's just the molding of the whole thing. Lots of flash, lots of injector marks. If you can't see that trunk again, look at that. That's something you're going to, and you can actually fill these. You can actually fill those. Like I said, I've done body work and stuff to that body. You think big pieces of flash right there. Big sprues. Look at all that and molding in hood thing. Great detail on the underneath, but just like the Trumpeter Nova, they give us good detail on one side, but it damages the other side. And what's sad is the Trumpeter hood and trunk that open are just like this, and so is the Monte Carlo. You give us all the great detail underneath, but the top is damaged with mold injecting marks. And so another thing I did on mine, we didn't use this. We used a custom one from the C1 carbon signal kit. I ended up cutting it back off, and I lowered it a little bit, and that way puts it more to the ground. Mock-up, guys. It's only mock-up. Let's see if you guys can't get a true view of the way it sets while you're right here. And Punch was saying my car is modern enough that maybe we should. He said it's aggressive enough and has that modern look. He thinks the little 4-cylinder turbo would look good. So we're going to go with that. Punch was a great help on this. So all his encouragement and advice and what have you, I'm going to take to heart and actually use. So we're going to do that. Love this Escort. Wish we got these in the States, so that way maybe I could surface one up and have some fun. But we never even got these in the U.S. It went to Mexico. I've seen them in Australia. Some Australian builders have used it, but we didn't get the Escort till like 82 here in the States. Even though it's a Ford product, I was telling my wife and son the other day that, there's so many different makes and models across the world that other versions don't get. So, let me see where I was. You guys ever notice after you unbox something, it's like sinister to get it back in the same position it came out of the box? I've seen a lot of you guys still online building and doing good. John Pohl keeps us pretty updated on his Colt dragster build he's doing. Get that put up. And then let's see. I've done the body work to the hood to get it all fitted in. Got a piece of dust in there somehow, but it's flat and smooth, so I don't want to dig it out. I'm going to see what needs to be done once I primer it, because I haven't put no primer on it yet. The bumpers for this kit are bulky and gross, if you ask me. So I got to probably either do no front bumper or make my own bumper. But yeah, it comes with this little inline 4-cylinder here, and I think we're going to use that. And just one of these kits, guys, that if you're not able to cut and customize, look right here. They're telling you on where the instruction goes. They're telling you on this instruction to cut 0.5 millimeter off this post. That makes no sense. I guess for the wheel post to position the wheels on, I guess. And you got a bunch. And then see right here, it shows you on the rear end part where, well, that's not it. Yeah, see on the rear end, it don't even show you the holes that are plugged in. It just shows you these little things, and they're actually holes that you put that over. Then right here's your drive shaft, torsion bars, skid plate. That's pretty neat. It's telling you to heat up sprue. See the candle there in the sprue? Heat up the sprue, pull it apart. That's how you make your aerial antennas. And then right there would be the regular markings and stuff. But I blew this up. Now I can't get it to go back. There it goes. So that's how. So that's what I've been working on. I got the Sunny wagon done, and I got the GTR wagon done. I didn't get a chance to get final videos up of those, but I did send them to Scaled World, and they've been to the Acme show. They've been to the Liars show. Pete's already got them to a couple shows. So if you're on the East Coast and you get to attend some of them shows, hopefully you guys get to see the work in person. And then when they get back, I'll do a finished video on them. Ugh. I guess I like to see the look. Maybe the little single headlight look right there. I just love old square body cars. Let's see if we can't get the light on there. You'll get that. We got to get the hood hinge up. And you get that. Like that. So then I'll get the little straight 6 and the 4-cylinder in there, and I gotta take the tops of those off. That's about where I'm at on that. I had plans to use the resin seats out of this in another Sunny pickup, but the chassis that I got with one of the Sunny pickups was already modified. And of course I used a modified body to build the Sunny wagon. So now I gotta find me a chassis for the Sunny. I talked to George. He plans on doing a custom. So we'll see what happens there. Alright. So what do we got here? Get my glue out. Broke the exhaust. Alright. So we need... Get my glasses on, guys. So it looks like we need this. So hopefully that little bit I showed you at the beginning, if you guys plan on having this kit and planned on building it, you guys are aware of that little issue I just showed you. I also spent some more time on my miniatures. I posted a few pictures up on some of the miniature sites, but not over here. Just those are a good mind breaker, guys. I don't know. I hate to tell you, but I think I got addicted to those little things. Alright. Let's... Market also made a comment about people and the way they comment and reply that sometimes brings to the point to, you know, it's demotivating to even build, let alone share what you build. That's one of the problems about being building and doing your stuff live over the internet nowadays. Back in the day, you would just build all by yourself, and then, you know, you'd take it to a show or whatnot, or, you know, you'd ask questions when you was at a show, and, you know, you could get... I've had my fair share of negative feedback and, you know, the lack of people wanting to help. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's our project, it's our hobby. Build it the best you can. Rely on those that you can rely on, and if somebody wants to be negative and disgruntled all the time, weed them out. You know, don't look for them as advice, and, you know, just what have you. And if they follow you about on the internet and cause drama, then others will see the issue, and you just keep your peace. Most of the time when you engage them, is why it gets worse. So you're just gonna have to regulate, you know, who you want involved in, who you want to be associated with. And I told Mark, with his own health problems, you know, don't pay nobody attention. Just, you know, keep the peace as much as you can. If they try to, you know, cause problem on your Facebook page or what have you, just block them. You know, don't play into it. There's criticism, there's constructive criticism, and then there's just the bullying. You know, and hell, looking at other builders that I would follow, like the guys in the chat here, um, didn't know nothing about Ryan Camacho. You guys know him as See No Evil Builds. He popped on my page one day, said, "Minnie, I follow you a little bit. I have a question. What should I do?" And um, this is back when Chip was doing um, the top 10 builds, and Ryan hadn't um, put anything in the build yet. He didn't know what was going on, because online he had heard a few people saying um, that Chip was only after people with Pro Street, and Chip was only doing this for his buddy and whatnot, And so Chip took a lot of heat, and I told Ryan, do just do you, and people either accept it or they won't. And he did. He put it in there. He got great response. Um, I can't. I still see the Sylvia in my head. He went all out. Um, Brian did all the wiring and braided hoses and everything. I mean, he worked his butt off, and it was a tuner. A lot of people online were saying that it has to be Pro Street drag, all this other stuff. And I think if I remember right, Ryan came out really good that month. Um, and he had that Sylvia, and man, it was just a killer build. And then our friend that's also in the chat now, Dustin, from Hinterland Custom, he approached a tank build with his own idea in mind. And I remember some people making a comment here and there, because what Dustin had shared prior to the tank diorama was a graveyard diorama with the motorcycle, and people, instead of saying, "Hey, that was a neat idea," he took a lot of heat because the bike was 1/12 scale, and the graveyard was at a different scale. But both those guys came out to have great channels, great support. I mean, a lot of you guys follow them and stuff, and it's because they do their own thing. They're not seeking, they're not seeking the approval of everyone else and not enjoying what they're doing. They're enjoying what they're doing, and the people that enjoy it too, they follow and they support them. I forgot how old John's son is, but John has been doing some online stuff with his son, and his son has been able to join in while John was either following or going live. And that's what motivates me, is to knowing that you know that some of us guys out here could be the encouragement someone else needs. And just, we may not ever shake hands and see each other in person, but that doesn't mean you have to be an asshole online to someone just because, just for whatever reason, just that's what seems to happen sometimes. I'm gonna build a complete motor first, and then we'll remove what I want and add to what I want. And I'm not knocking anybody, but please pull your parts off your trees, sand them down like what we're doing here. Test fit, then paint. Don't. I see a lot of people saying, "Well, I messed up the color, or I messed this up because I did this." The prep. If a good prep job. See, I'm removing all these mounts. All this is awful. It wants to spread the engine apart, and that's why you test fit. If you was already painted, trying to do all this. Then I found out with this Tamiya extra thin, if you sand both sides prior to glue, it always helps it stick. I like using this extra thin. Some people don't care for it. This right here lets me build, gets me a good contact, and then I can easily remove and not damage. I think Pablo and a few of the guys are going to do a build coming up starting next year. I encourage you guys to get involved in some of the community group builds. I say that, and yet I don't do it my darn self. But there's a few community group builds coming up next year, and that's a good way to get followers because you'll have the guys saying, "Oh yeah, I remember seeing that over here, and I had a question," and what have you. So that's a getting that time of year right now. I always wanted to do a group build and see how you guys would take to it. Um, when I was younger, and I had to cut grass to get my own model kits, and I would buy it at 4 o'clock when Dad got off work, and by 7 o'clock it was already already built. You know what I mean? I would rush through it and everything just to have it done and built, and it sat on the shelf for a few days, and then I'd go to play with it. Or, man, you know what? I finally got some black paints. I'm gonna paint this, that, and the other. And it would get tore apart 2 or 3 times. And I'm thinking, instead of keep tearing my stuff apart, what if I built something out of the extra parts I've collected over the years and the sprue tree? And I built a couple like dune buggy looking things, motor hoist and stuff like that. I always thought it would be cool if we did 80% sprue based. You know what I mean? Like the majority of it has to be from sprue, and then you modify the kit around it. I talking to my son about that idea. I'll show you guys something here in a minute. I was talking to my oldest boy. Um, Trying to get that set about. This ain't a Like I'm telling you guys, this ain't a very good kit. Well, there's the gist of the motor. Yeah, no problem. Welcome, SMS. Thank you, John. So I was telling my oldest boy about building stuff out of, just extra parts and what have you. And as I'm sitting here working on the body work to the Escort, I look over there and he's going to town. Now he's just going to town. And I look over there, and my first instinct, I'm not going to lie, I'll be like, no, I was wanting to use those valve covers. But as I let him just do his own thing, he just started working on this. He got some Shelby wheels, took a bed that I wasn't using, and he actually looked through my parts box, found 2 seats with the same pattern, and I wasn't helping him. I didn't help him do any of this. He got some wooden sticks, and he was just building stuff out of nothing. A broken chassis I had. How cool is that? That he just. I had an idea. I told him that I used to do, and he went after it. And this is a fobble car. Monogram Pontiac drag motor, inner fenders from the 66 AMT Fairlane, AMT Ford Dash, AMT 66 Nova, Revell wheel and tires, AMT bed. He found the right bumper for it, and since he couldn't find the tailgate, he made the tailgate fit out of popsicle sticks and colored them black. Even did the rear end, did the drive shaft and everything. You know what I'm saying? Did the front end, and he did all this while I'm over here on this side of my desk, and he's just over here going through parts and what have you. So I just left him alone and see what he would create. Now I don't know if I want to use this header. Now it's showing the glue's way down here, but I don't know just yet. Flip it like that, and it goes up way too high. That means the turbo would be way high, and that'd be out of the hood. So we'd have to do some redesigning and stuff. And, I was telling Mark that people call me a shit builder sometimes because as I'm building something, and I've said it over before, I've said it a few times, if you're after a look and you can't get the look you're after, then make shortcuts where they can't be seen. Um, like if I wanted the turbo setting right here and I couldn't make the exhaust, at least what I would do is at least have one pipe. That way you could see it to make it look like it had an exhaust. Because once it's in the engine bay, you won't be able to see the whole thing anyway. And so I told him, even myself, I get criticized sometimes for the way some of the builds I do. I'm just going to quickly do some light gluing on this just to get it in there and see what it looks like. Speaking of Dustin, when Dustin was building that tank, I learned so much stuff from that, because that tank that Dustin was building, I'd never seen one where the tracks went over the whole tank. He had the whole tracks and everything was the same height as the roof of the tank. And I didn't know there was such thing as a male and a female tank. Um, so, and here it is. I just, was following Dustin doing some car builds, and then, so there's that. I'm going to go ahead and glue the header on just to see what we got here. This glue's just strong enough to hold, and if I don't like it, I can pull it back off. Unlike super glue where I'd probably break. All right, so this is what the motor is supposed to look like. Let that set up for a few seconds. Now, I meant to ask Punch last night. Now, I've seen some of these online where they have a distributor, and see, this right here didn't never show you nowhere for a distributor. And then some of them have, hey Ron, I ain't seen you in a long time, brother. I hope you're doing very good. Some of them have a distributor, and it looks like it would be over here. But then some of them have coil packs that set up here on the engine cowl. So I didn't, I didn't know which way to actually go with this just yet. And that's when we started talking about doing turbo and all that with it. So if we put it in and we set it where it's supposed to go like that, that's what we're looking with. Yeah, guys, if you don't know, Ron's was driving a truck, but he had some health issues for a couple years, and he disappeared on us. And I don't pry into someone's business, so I just, I knew he'd show up when he showed up. But man, you had me scared for a little bit, buddy. I actually want to. Actually want to move that motor back a little bit. We'll see what we do. But see, that there, I mean, it gives you a little bit of detail, but it's all plain and cartoonish blockage on the detail. You know what I mean? Well, if you look at the hood length, I can bring the turbo up a little bit, can I? So if you look, I got a little bit. So let's see let's see this. Wonder if I got any turbos casted yet. It's been a long time since I cast anything. Okay. Let me see. Hey, Mark. I was mentioning your Escort build at the beginning of this video, and the conversation we had this morning. So once this video is done, go check back and I kind of explained what I done to adjust the rear end, and hopefully that will help you, Mark. Hello? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Love you. I have some resin pieces here that our good friend George over at Vision 124 had donated and said I could use. So let's see. Is this the right one? Yeah. Let's see what we got from there. See what we can use. I like this one better, George. I'm going to use this one. Alright. See, here's a Skyline bumper. This is the bumper from the trans kit that I was going to use. I think I might still use this. I don't know. Alright, so if we do that, there's that. Here's this. Okay. Now, I got this piece here from George. Now, it's supposed to be linked to a piece like this. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to pull this off. Let's put this on. Put this on like this. Oh, shit, punch. That almost fits perfect. Damn. Okay, let me sand this down just a little bit. I'm going to add this resin piece in there like that. Get that like that. Now he gave me two things. But I think I'm going to use this box here. I'm going to cut these pipes off right here. You son of a gun. Press down too hard, David. Yeah, I think I saw you post something up on Facebook a week or two ago, Ron, that you had actually finished a build. If you're still with us, Ron doesn't, like he said, he working all the time, running loads, and now that's getting winter time, he's going to be really busy dealing with bad roads and idiot drivers. That's one thing that we would laugh about last year when he was running about. When I did get to talk to him, he was dealing with idiot drivers everywhere he went. All right, let's see, put that in there like that. Put a plate on it right there. Just sand it down. A huge turbo for this little car, though. Might not be the best setup. If I was put that in there like that. Okay, let's see what it looks like. Basically, with what I just did, we took it from carbureted to fuel injected. Yeah, think I want to do that. It's funny, someone said about needing sleep. There's a Mark was doing a live show one day, fell asleep while he was doing his live show. Okay, so let's slide this in there like that. Let's see, what am I working with here? Put that in there like that. And if we set the turbo in there, will it even fit? If you guys can hear that, that's the furnace kicking on. It's only 20 degrees here today, and that's Fahrenheit. It's super cold this week. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work, guys. That's way too big. Can you guys see that? That's bigger than the whole motor. Oh man, that car would flip over. Let's go to, let's see what we got here. I got smaller turbos, so let's locate those. Let's locate those. Okay. Holy crap. I can only imagine being in that car. Guys, I needed some smaller saws. I don't see where it is now. I needed some smaller saws. So what I did is I took those blades. So I took blades that fit in saws like this, and I cut them shorter, and I put them in my X-Acto blades. Just so I didn't have to have a huge, you know what I mean? Just so I didn't have to have this small part and a great big. I even got another one around here somewhere I made. I can't find it. Oh, here it is. And I made it with a longer blade, but easier to handle. They're all the same course, but I just made them where I can get in places. pull this back out. Get rid of this oversized turbo. We want this to be in here somewhere like this, so you can like see the exhaust. Like that. Here, you know what? I'm gonna wedge that in there and see what we get. Like I said, I'm going after the look, guys. It ain't gonna be right, but it's the look. Maybe squeeze it in this arm. At least that way we know where I want to set it. So if we do that like that, see, that's a lot smaller turbo. I can still run some piping, gotta do some cleanup. Get that right here. Okay. Let's try it on the first. You know what I'll do real quick? I know what I'll do. Where's my drill bit? I'm gonna drill into this real quick. Where's my hinging brass? Nope. I'm gonna pin it. Put a pin in it, if you guys can't see that. And that way here, I can mount it like that without gluing it. And I can see what the fitment looks like. Oh crap. What do you guys think? I could do that. You think, bud? Yeah, the other one's way too big. I got this set here, but look how big that is. And once we put this resin turbo set in there, it was bigger than the whole dang plate. Like I said, that's just pinned in there. And then I can run my tubing to the intercooler from the throttle. I'll make a throttle body on there. Should I move the turbo back? Because right now I got it firing. It's setting in between. I said firing. It's setting in between the first and second exhaust tube. That looks like a good room. Now let's see if we got hood clearance. Yep, hood shuts good. So when you open it, that would let me run an exhaust out here. Let me run into the intercooler and from the intercooler into there. I think that might be a good position for it right here. Now I just got to make that throttle body. Yeah, that was easy enough. I was over here stressing. Where's my little glue cap? Throttle bodies, throttle bodies, throttle bodies, throttle bodies. Oh, okay, yeah. Ooh. Let me see. Throttle body, throttle body. That one. I'm not worried about blow-off valve or anything just yet. I want to make sure I can get throttle body in there. Where's all my tubing? Yeah, I think that's going to be too little. Yeah, it's going to be too little. Let's look for something else. Let's see that. Let's see this right here. I'm using a piece of sprue to make a throttle body that will fit solder. Don't know. Let's go a little bit bigger if we can. Nope, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. I want to get this pipe in there. I would love to have that pipe in there. We don't have anything. Nope. What is this? Okay. Let's see what this right here does. Might have just made something, fellas. Get that. Not yet. Boom. I gotta get my other saw out. My power saw. Like I said, shortcut where you can. Got that off. Sandpaper. This right here is supposed to be part of the exhaust. Okay. Any of you guys on here sports fans? They're making a big deal here. I guess people had bought tickets and scheduled vacations to go to Mexico this weekend, and they canceled the game. And these people are throwing a fit now because they're saying they booked vacations around the Chiefs playing LA in Mexico for Monday Night Football, but now they moved it to LA because it was supposed to be an LA home game anyway, and the Chiefs said they'll refund their tickets to the game, but they can't do nothing about flights and stuff like that, which is true, you know. That's different, but I guess the field's messed up or something. Oh, you mother hopper. What I mean by that, to me, a glue being just strong enough to hold. I hear you, Pat. I hear you. You know, me being a car fan, I just never really cared for NASCAR. My dad's a huge NASCAR fan. So was my sister's husband. It was just something I never really got into in NASCAR. I like drag cars, so I pay attention to some of the drag racing stuff, but mostly, you know, local stuff and what have you. I can't just sit and watch TV, guys, for hours. I have to be doing something. I like the news in the morning, and I like my investigation ID movies and stuff like our series. Okay, what did I do with my solder? Okay, got that in there. Now let's drill the back of the blower, the back of the turbo. The right one. Yeah, it is. Okay. Be right back, fellas. Just chill for a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and super glue. Where's my super glue? I'm gonna go ahead and have to super glue this now that we're putting pressure on it. So if you guys are just joining in, I see we got 20 viewers now. I'm modifying the Revell Mk2 Escort straight 4-cylinder. We was going to try to do a Coyote motor. It just wouldn't fit. Yeah, Ron, I watched the first season of Making a Murderer. I haven't seen the second season. I watched on Netflix, they had Killer Women, and probably like 18 episodes. And man, that will scare you, man. The way some of these women were. This one woman, they said it was in the 50s. They hired her to help this woman have a baby, like be the midwife or whatever they called them back then. And she ended up wanting the husband, so she poisoned the whole family just so she could get the husband by herself. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Okay, so we got the intake built. We got the intake built. We got the turbos set up. Let's see. What do you got, son?
Measuring. I'm about to use it.
Drilling a hole.
It's not drilling. maybe need more pressure. It's not doing anything.
Funny story about my son down here building with me. He was using a hobby knife and cut himself, and he didn't tell me. He just got up and disappeared, and I knew he had disappeared for a reason. And when I was asking him what's wrong, he said, "Oh, I'm just looking over here." And he was afraid to tell me that he cut himself, afraid he was going to get in trouble.
How did you bend the metal? Someone said.
Just with my fingers. I just held it there, then you push it around, and then you move it to where you want it to be. So like right now, I need a bigger piece of solder. The solder I use, guys, is, am I using this piece? Yeah. I try to use a lead-free, no rosin, you know, because it's solid. You don't want the rosin. You don't want the rosin in there, because over time it will leak.
Ooh.
And
are you okay?
Yeah. I've noticed around here we still have Sutherland's lumbers, and every now and then they have stuff in the paper running sales in the paper. So I'll take the 20% off or whatever there, because solder's, I believe how high solder is. But I use different sizes. I got this size. They really don't say what size, but you see the difference. I got that size, and I even got a great bigger size. Then like that, I'll bend it with my thumb like that. That way you don't get a crease or a kink in it, and then I'll cut it back to the size I need, to the length I need. But first I wanted to get this in there. Like that, so that way I know what length I need. Yeah, there they are. Pull that back out. This right here will give me room to do all my linkage and wheel lines and all that still too. Still a little too much. Be careful, bud. I was watching on YouTube, a guy in Ireland is building an Mk2 Escort, and he's using a Toyota motor in it. And this little car looks bad, sounds bad. It just amazing build. An amazing car. When I have a project going on and I need ideas, I really enjoy going to YouTube always leads to some good ideas. Then also too, having somebody with Escort knowledge like Punch does is good to go to too. All right, so that there's just a little quick. We'll build the throttle body. We'll have the intake tube coming in. We'll have the exhaust tube going out. Yeah, that solder, John, aluminum tubing always seems to want to crease. And then I use this for my exhaust and everything too. When I get the Sunny wagon back from Pete after the shows this year and next year, he's going to take it to a few shows in April. They should be back to me around June. And you guys will be able to see a picture of the exhaust I put on that truck. Different sizes for different things, you know. So let's close the hood and see. Yeah, good fitment, still good fitment, and that's even with no cross member in there. So we should be real good when we get the cross member in there. It'll lift the rear end of the motor up, pull that front down a little bit. I think it's going to look pretty good. Like I said, the turbos were donated from Scaled World, and this intake box, I got a few of them from George. He had somebody 3D print them for him. Here's the one that we're making for George. I just got to get some more rubber and get all that fixed, but it actually says rotary in it. That's why I didn't even attempt to use this one, because we know this ain't a rotary. Then I still have these Webers here. Maybe I could find a way, and this is what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be carbureted on this side, and then we turned it into turbo with injection. So now I'll have to do the throttle cables and all that, and I thought this was going to be a right-hand drive, but it's not. It's the regular left-hand drive dash right here. I thought it was going to be the right-hand dash car. So, and it got decent door cards. It's just I don't like the great big racing back seats for this, so I'm gonna use a lower back. That's what I was thinking. Maybe using the seats that came from the. Are you out of glue? Maybe using this.
I think this is, but this one, the tip is closed off. Like there was glue still there, and that's not a drill.
I'm gonna help my son out real quick. No.
That's what fits in it.
Been watching some of these guys restoring Matchbox and Hot Wheels. Been watching this Marty's Matchbox, and he's restored some pretty neat old Matchbox. Alright, well, I think that's about it for today, guys. Thanks for following, and now that I got the motor addressed, I'm supposed to set right here. So I don't know if I'll leave it that far forward or if I'll move it back to the firewall like that. I'm going to sand these off and get that looking better. Then get all that fitted in. Then, like I said, there's a little gap in between the fenders, so I added that plastic to it, and then I made all this right here. And then I added these two to complete the rear diffuser. And you can see how much of the body I cut out to get the C1 fenders to fit right. And I'm updating the brakes from these little bitty brakes here. I'm making the Pegasus disc brakes fit. Right now they set right inside the wheel. So it's a fun project, just lots of work. Yeah, P and George and a few of the other diversified scalers, they all got to get to Atlanta. They went to Atlanta. I've seen a lot of you guys show up at Atlanta, and it looks like you guys had a fun time. Hope everybody got there and got home safe. That's my son drilling out some wheels. He's got another project he's working on. Get that in there. Get the wheels set back in there. Love mocking stuff up, but man, one slight move and it's putting the puzzle back together. So now let's see. Like I said, the turbo's not glued in. I could pull that apart and still detail it and paint it and everything. But that's where we're at on that. Then a nice fitting hood. No issues there. Open it up, and you can see I drilled out the holes in the hood instead of just gluing the C1 hood on top. Then I added the fin too since the last time we talked. Then, like I said, I drilled the holes, and then when you get the idea of what you want, and then you actually step back and look at it, to me they look too big. So we took the rivet punch that we got from George and we made rivets. I like it because it gives it an imprint and it puts a post in the middle somehow, just enough so you can see it there. That's why I can't wait to get this into primer. I don't know, I was talking to Punch. I don't know if I want to go golf blue. I don't know how I want to paint this just yet. And then, like I said, guys, I added, you can see where I cut the C1 front valance back off. I cut the C1 valance back off and then lowered it. That way it filled up the street gap, and then that's why I did the rear diffuser See how high the rear end went up. I just wanted to keep it all sleek looking. And then, like I said, I added the plastic in to fill up the quarter panels because the way Chris designed this was for the Sunny pickup truck body. Punch, if you watch this later on, bud, thanks for the turbo idea. I put it in effect there, and I like it. I talked about V8 in this car, and the motor I wanted to use was a Revell Coyote out of the 2014 Mustang, and there was just no room. I wouldn't be able to do plug wires or anything because it filled the whole thing up, and that's something I didn't want. Now it comes with the strut bar. It does come with the strut bar. Let's cut that out. And I don't know if I'll use it just yet. I have to clean this up real quick. And this. Yeah, the motor will clear. It barely. I don't know. We'll have to see once the transmission gets in. But it might not clear. Because I don't have that transmission support, and the motor still got some movement. But it's supposed to have a strut mount there. If I put it right where the struts are, like right there, over the strut holes, it fits no problem. But I think that's what I'll do. I'll put it right there. Let's see. Yeah, the hood still shuts. I guess that'd be a good place for it. It's right on that intake, though. So we'll build a throttle. We'll get the throttle linkage and all that stuff built. And since you can't see the distributor, I've seen a lot of them look like they have coil packs up here. So I don't know. I'll get a hold of Punch sometime next week and see what the difference is. Because if this is right-hand drive, right here's where the master cylinder and all that is underneath this cowl. You got to go from the back side of the dash. But you fill your fluids up here. We can always relocate that somewhere and then put our coil. Because the plugs go in the top on this one, they don't go in. And they go on the top of the head, they don't go into the exhaust. So we'll have to look. I'll look about. He sent me pictures from the Zach Speed Ford. That's a bitching car, man. Let's go. Close. There it is. All right. Well, guys, that's about it. I got to get some afternoon duties done. Just thought I would share a little bit with you. What started to be part of me addressing that suspension led into a little bit of building. So you guys got to sit back and watch me create a turbo motor for this little Escort. Hope you guys have fun. Stay building. stay inspired. Just build what pleases you guys. And with that being said, I will check you guys later. We'll see you guys soon.